Once again, you're welcome. And with less than 4 months to go for this year's general elections, it appears that Ghanaians are likely to have more options on who to vote for as president, as more than 35 others seek to unseat President John Mahama. With 25 political parties already registered, the EC says as many as 11 more are still waiting for certificates to contest this year's presidential election. Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission, Amadou Sule, made a revelation at the launch of the 2016 Peaceful Election Post Stamps by the Ghana Post. Journalist Joseph Akable was at that program and now reports.
The program was organized by Ghana Post to outdoor its new stamps. This is the postal agency's contribution to the call for a peaceful elections. Addressing a press conference, Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission, Amadou Sule, said the Commission has so far adhered to guiding principles of electoral practices to ensure that the polls are credible.
Mr. Chairman, the Commission has put up certain mechanisms in place to ensure a credible election this year, that is both the presidential and parliamentary elections. And I want to assure you that the Commission is adhering to the guiding principles of electoral justice. There are various activities in there. One, that is leaning on the law, the legal framework. Two, transparency and participation, accountability, integrity, timeliness, accuracy. These are all guiding principles, and we are ensuring that we link to that.
Mr. Amadou also revealed that 11 other parties are seeking certificates of approval from the Electoral Commission.
When I talk of our critical stakeholders, I'm not talking about the registered political parties. Monthly IPAC meetings from January up to date. We are now in the 8th month. When I say IPAC, the acronym is Inter-Party Advisory Committee. It's made up of all registered political parties, series of meetings, and IPAC has a 3-tier system. We have the IPAC, which is at the top level, the RIPAC, which is the Regional Inter-Party Advisory Committee, and the DIPAC, the District Inter-Party Advisory Committee. You see, what happened at the top gets to the region, up, down, and bottom up. You see, these are issues that were discussed at the level of the Commission with all the national executives of the registered political parties. As I talk now, we have 25 registered political parties in our records. And I want to tell you there are 11 which are trying to come. Before I left the office yesterday, 2 were telling me, please, you've given us the provisional certificate. When are we getting the final one? So you see, if we should get the 11 on board, plus the 25, those of you who are mathematicians.
On his part, Managing Director for Ghana Post, Mr. Eric Yao, said electoral violence that has plagued other countries affected postal services as well as other activities. It was thus important for all citizens to get on board the call for peace. Mr. Yao said this was the contribution of Ghana Post.
Getting to this stage has not been easy, but with determination and persistence, Ghana Post today has made a great stride in our effort to tell the world that Ghana stands united and we are solidly protecting the peace of our dear nation. Mr. Chairman, as part of corporate Ghana, Ghana Post can only effectively operate and function in an atmosphere and a nation that is stable and peaceful. As a postal organization, we are witnesses to the effects of wars that have happened in places like Liberia, Sierra Leone, and other African countries.
Joseph Akable, Joy News, Accra.
Right, so the issue of a lot more political parties registering or keen to contest in this year's presidential election is something that we want to spend some time and understand what exactly it is. Considering the space on the ballot paper for each candidate and how difficult it will be for voters on that day, let's get more from Head of Communications at the Electoral Commission, Mr. Eric Jakwasu, joins us now in the studio. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you, too.
So, 25 parties already in existence registered with their licenses. 11 more have applied. Do we know who these 11 are?
Yeah, 11, yes, as we have said, we have 25 political parties registered and they have been issued with their certificates. Day in, day out, a lot of other parties come to apply to be registered. You know, when they come, initially they are given a provisional certificate, after which a lot of investigation goes on before they'll be finally issued with the final certificate. So as my deputy chair has indicated, so far 11 parties have come in to apply.
Who are these 11?
There are many and varied with a lot of acronyms, okay? URP, YPP, there are such a number of political parties.
Okay. Do you have a lot more independent candidates who are also, you know, asking for the licenses?
No, independent candidates don't have to ask for any license to operate. Okay. They only have to satisfy the conditions for nomination. So we'll know of the independent candidates when we open up the nominations.
But for the YPP and the URP you referred to, many have heard those names before. Did they apply just recently, or it was since the last election and you're still investigating?
Two parties may be having the same acronyms, but they may not be the same political party. Okay. We have the Yes People's Party, which is already a registered political party. But as I said, there's a tall list of parties there, and we need to investigate them before we issue them with the final certificate.
When did these new 11 come around and ask for these licenses?
You know, when the party comes, in a matter of 7 days, they should be given their provisional certificates, okay? Then the investigation goes on. So they keep on coming day in and day out.
Okay, and for this process, you say for the investigations, when you give them the provisional certificates, how long does it take? Because we're looking at the time left to the elections.
After you have issued them with a provisional certificate, within 30 days, you should finish gazetting, publishing their names, doing the necessary investigation, and then issuing them with the final certificate within 30 days of the submission of the application.
Okay, so if we're to understand that these 11 get their certificates by the time everything is closed and nominations are open, we're talking what, 31 candidates on the ballot paper, is that it?
No, not exactly 31 or 36 if you want to add accurately, 36 parties. But you see, we have a lot of political parties there, but when it comes to election, it is not all the political parties who file. When we talk about the presidential, for example, I think the highest number we had was 2012, when we had about 6 political parties contesting with about 2 independent candidates. So the size of the ballot and the number of persons who will go on the ballot would depend on those who come to file the nominations and those whose nominations are accepted as valid.
Now, I heard Mr. Sule mention that the more the numbers go up and if there's any chance that a lot more people cross that line and get to contest, it will create problems for the elections, will it not?
Yeah, if we're talking about large numbers, then we're talking about the way to design the ballots, okay? So the large numbers will influence the way the ballots is designed, okay? As we speak, there are ideas to use the portrait or to use the landscape, okay, depending on the number. And this is also done in such a way as to reduce the number of rejected ballots.
Does that not in any way compromise the process? Because some will say that if a lot more people are coming in, you need to revise how the paper will look like. In the past, we've seen a lot of rejected or spoiled ballots because the education for these kinds of high numbers becomes problematic.
You see, the rule permits the number of political parties that can register and then contest in an election. There's no ceiling to the number of political parties. So depending on the number of parties that we get, then it will inform the way we structure the ballot paper. Then for reasons why we have rejected ballot, there could be many reasons why we have rejected ballot. So a lot of education will have to go in, but it hasn't got to do with the number of parties which are contesting the elections. People for various reasons decide even to spoil their ballots. okay, when they are going to exercise the poll. So it is not too much of a function of the number of political parties. But of course, if the number is very large, it will definitely affect or influence the way you structure or you design your ballot paper.
Will that mean that if you redesign the ballot paper, considering the high numbers that may come in, you will do another voter education so people get to understand the process? So we don't see too many rejected ballots in the
Yeah, you see, when you receive nominations, by law, you have a period of a minimum of 30 days and a maximum of 90 days to contest the elections. So definitely before every election, you must do a lot of education. So that if you are faced with a situation where we have a large number of political parties and we must change the orientation of the ballot paper, that means we must redesign our education to that effect.
Okay. Now, that's for the issue of the ballot paper and the number of people who may apply. But we know that there's a process which is currently ongoing, the transfer of votes and the proxy voting. How is that exercise going right now?
Thank you very much. You see, the rules permit that people who registered in one constituency, but for one reason or the other, have relocated to another constituency to transfer their votes to their new places of residence before elections. Now, we have two categories of persons in this case. We are talking about people who want to contest the elections, and then those who must go in and then what? Vote. Okay? You know, for someone who registered in constituency A, and this time has relocated to constituency B and would want to contest the elections in constituency B. This we are talking about a candidate who must be registered in the constituency where he or she wants to contest the election. So we have opened the window for candidates now to transfer their votes. Okay? We started on Monday and we'll end it on Friday. The rules are that 1, you should be a registered voter. 2, you should be resident in your new constituency for a period of not less than 12 months. Okay, and you should have evidence of residence, physical proof of residence, and then a residential address. Okay, if you satisfy all these conditions, you take your voter's ID card, you go to the district office of the constituency where you want to contest the election, then they will take you through the transfer process and make sure that your name is removed from constituency A, the polling station in constituency A where you registered, to constituency B.
Yes.
Okay. Now, your name comes here, it goes into the register, and you're also put on a transferred voters list. Where you registered previously, your name will be put on an absent voters list, such that you cannot go there again and then what? Vote. So we do this 42 days to nomination, after which we'll open the window now for all persons who want to transfer their vote for the purpose of voting in the election.
And that will be the 42 days?
You know, for nomination, it must be done 42 days to before the nomination. So also, elections, it must be 42 days before the elections.
Okay.
So when we finish with that of the nomination, okay, so when we calculate now, you realize that nomination date is going to be on the 30th of September. Okay, we have 2 days, 29th and 30th of September. Then after that, we'll go in now and open the window for electorates or voters who have relocated from one constituency to the other, so that they can also transfer their vote and vote. Okay, that has got to do with the transfer of votes. Then we also have this provision for proxies. A proxy is someone who is acting in your stead based on your instructions and directives. So we are saying that if you are incapacitated due to ill health, old age, you may not be able to go to the polling station on election day, or you may be out of your constituency for one reason or the other. This is the time for you to apply for a proxy. You come to either the office of the Electoral Commission, or you go to the district where you are registered, you go to the district office there and pick a proxy form. It's in quadruplicate. You go in with one other registered voter who will be your proxy. And preferably, that voter must be registered in the constituency and at the same polling station that you vote. So when you go in and you are qualified, the proxy form is filled in quadruplicate. You are given 1, the applicant gets 1, the proxy gets 1, the returning officer of the constituency gets 1, and 1 is kept by the commission. So come election day, if you are the proxy, after you have cast your votes, you are now allowed to go in and vote for the second time for the applicant. Okay.
And that will be it.
And that ends it there.
Okay. That's for the issue of the transfer of the vote. The last thing I want to ask about is what we heard of from last week. In fact, from last week or last 2 weeks, about the e-transmission of the results. We know that there was a process to hire the services of a company. Has that process ended?
No, that process is still ongoing. They've finished the demonstration. It will go on. They will go through all the necessary procurement practices, okay, and maybe eventually award a contract.
How soon will that be done?
No, it will depend on those who are on the evaluation panel and then the tender committee, okay. The other day we did it, and for technical legal reasons, because the process is ongoing, we are not allowed to speak to it generally because it may influence the award of the
whoever gets the contract,
and one may end up going to court. So we are waiting for the process to go through, then we can discuss it comprehensively.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Japasu, for your time this afternoon, sharing some information with us about the work the EC is doing. First of all, the list of individuals who've already shown interest in contesting in this year's presidential elections. At the last count, about 11 more parties are seeking to push their bids through. Also, the transfer of votes and proxy is also ongoing. For those who are contesting, is for this week. From next week, then the others who want to transfer their votes and also the proxy can't go until the 30th of September. Still on elections, this week we have heard of proposals to deal with poverty and improve living conditions of Ghanaians, with the latest being the NPP's Coastal Development Authority. But an independent presidential candidate, Kwame Asiedu-Walker, is rather proposing what he calls a regionalization policy. Speaking on this show yesterday, the US-based design engineer says that we must adopt the federal system of governance to suit our conditions in properly eliminating poverty in both coastal communities and areas up north. Are you?
Listen, thank you very much for being here today, inviting me here today to actually tell the Ghanaians that indeed I'm a Ghanaian born in Latte, with a lineage to Solpon, as you indicated. Yes, I was raised in Latte, Ekwapim, in the Eastern region. Grew up in Latte, went to school at the Presbyterian boarding school, and then onward to Ghana National College, Cape Coast. And it may be so coincidental that that same school was the same school that was founded by the first president of this country. Yes, that said, yes, I'm a true blood Ghanaian, absolutely.
So where did you come from?
Where do I come from?
To become president, where did you come from?
Actually, yes, as a Ghanaian-born citizen, raised in Ghana, I proceeded on to be schooled in the United States of America. I've been in the States and been in Ghana in and out for the past 30 years, probably about 30 plus years. So yes, a lot of us in the diaspora, Ghanaian-born actually, there's a time when we all must actually join to roll up our sleeves and get involved. Several times we come to this country, we leave as if we don't care. There's a time in all our lives that we cannot sit on the sidelines and be oblivious to what is happening in this country, a country that we all so dear love. As you all know, I don't think I need to enumerate the problems that Ghana is facing. I call this movement that I founded the United One Ghana movement nearly about 2 years ago here in Ghana, a movement with like-minded people who are ready to join hands to actually salvage Ghana. Again, I use the word salvage, not for any other reason except for the fact that Ghana is totally broken. Broken in the sense that we all need to get together and go back to the drawing board and tackle the problems that Ghana is facing head on.
Okay, now, I'm sure for many who are in the country, they will know what the challenges are in this country,
sure,
in almost every respect.
Absolutely.
But the key question anyone who's looking at you right now will ask is, why do you want to be president?
Why do I want to be president? It's a very loaded question. It's about sacrifice. Sacrifice for the common good. Sacrificing for the public service. Public service in the sense that we all must join together and solve the problems that Ghana is facing. We cannot sit again on the sidelines and be oblivious to what's going on. I don't need to go into details as to the problems that we are facing. However, I believe in this country, if you go to the market, to the lorry stations, from the kaya to the taxi drivers, to the professors in the lecture rooms, everybody appears to know what the problems this country is facing. It's about who is bold enough to step forward and say enough is enough. We must get together and tackle these problems head on to build Ghana or rebuild Ghana for what Ghana has to offer. This is what drives me.
Okay. Now, some will say that conceiving an idea to be anything takes time. You say you want to be president. When did that thought cross your mind that of all the things you've done in your life in the past 30 to 40 years in work, you want to be leader of this country?
Again, from experiences as we travel worldwide, you see a lot of developments, a lot of countries moving forward. It boggles your mind to realize that your own birthplace seems to be lagging behind. Lagging behind for the fact that in all the international developmental indices, Ghana is actually late. We are late in every development indices that international, worldwide, for that speak. If you talk about education, if you talk about power, if you talk about infrastructure, if you talk about healthcare, if you talk about all the social services, Ghana is actually, but somehow in this country, Ghanaians, for that matter, we've delusioned ourselves to think that we are number one or we are somehow better than other countries. I challenge the people of Ghana to actually look within and look to themselves to say, look, we must do better than what we're doing at the moment.
Okay. For the other issue, you talk about community service and development, and so I need to ask. In recent times, there's been talk of programs to tackle poverty in the country. The NDC has given us SADA. The NPP is now proposing the Coastal Development Authority. How will you tackle poverty in deprived communities, be it north or south?
Listen, thank you for that exact question, because as you well know, SADA hasn't worked. Right? SADA hasn't worked. We know the story about SADA. For years, it hasn't worked.
What are you offering?
Our proposal under United One Ghana support is proposing a regionalization policy.
What's that?
Regionalization, yes, it might sound like a very new term to you because for years, Ghana and most countries have talked about decentralization. Decentralization, as we see it, is mainly based on opening up district offices nationwide. However, the final decision making is done at the central office here in Accra. That hasn't solved those problems either. So we are going to propose a regionalization policy. Regionalization meaning all the regions must stand on its own decision making and its own strength.
Are you pushing for federal governance?
It may sound a little bit like a federalism, but yes, we need to tailor make it to suit the African sort of society.
But has that example worked globally? You point to Nigeria, and it hasn't helped too much, has it?
Well, I mean, I talk about Nigeria because of other issues that we don't want to go into these days, and I don't really want to compare Ghana to Nigeria. In America, as you well know, the states do make their own decisions, although they seek sort of support from Washington. So yes, the states are autonomous in their decision making. So likewise, Ghana can do the same, or model it and modify it to suit what we need here in Ghana.
With 4 months to go to an election, do you think Ghanaians are ready for this kind of change you speak about?
Yes, we must be bold in our decision making. We must step forward and say, yes, we can do it. Look,
is this not dreaming?
No, we're not dreaming. Look, United One Ghana was formed about 2 or 3 years ago, and we've actually gathered a lot of support across the country. We have actually penetrated every constituency before we are ready to come out. So yes, the foundation has been built.
So United One Ghana is what? Is it a party or a movement?
No, it's not a party. It's a movement. It's a people's movement. Like-minded people joining together, rolling up our sleeves and saying we are going to tackle the issues that Ghana needs, solving the problems for those who need it the most in this country.
Walker, what would you say to someone who would tell you that you are backing up the wrong trade?
Listen.
Or to put it bluntly, this may be a fruitless exercise.
That's all right.
In the history of the Fourth Republic, no independent candidate has won an election in this country maybe you're investing in the wrong direction. What would you say to that person?
Listen, agreed. I agree totally to that mantra. But in history is made by those who dare to make a difference. History is made by those who dare to make a difference. So yes, we are here to make history in Ghana. It can happen. Should all like-minded people join together to actually say, look, enough is enough. We must build Ghana for us. We must change Ghana. It's time, after 60 years, for us to really change Ghana and build Ghana for what Ghana deserves and what Ghana could have been. Yes.
Would you be shocked if you don't make it?
That's all right. There's always the first time. There's always the second time. We try again. Absolutely. I'm here to change the narrative. I'm here to change the focus. We cannot allow the same thing that has been done that hasn't really resolved the solutions in this country. We must not. We must change the course. We must think outside the box. We must do certain things differently. Yes.
Have you ever been part of any political party in this country?
By no means.
Have you ever been courted by any of them?
Yes. I've been courted, yes. But I'm not going to be specific at this point, in the open air here. But yes, I've been courted by several parties. I refused to join them for obvious reasons, because corruption has permeated this country without any solutions to it. So I chance, for the reason that I just don't want to be tagged, should I join any of those parties.
You're certain that if anyone comes at you to test the corruption table, they will get nothing?
Absolutely. Please, you're welcome. Listen, should I have joined any party, then you are beholden to the so-called party structures, the party elders, who then have the right to dictate the rules as to who gets the contracts or who gets a job in this country. No, we want clean-handed people to be able to come in without any corruption tagged, with us, to be able to rebuild this country in a clean way of doing business. Absolutely.
Do you believe in transparency?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
So in the spirit of transparency, how do you seek to fund your campaign?
Listen, as not a party, I have funded this party or this movement with our own resources.
From your pocket?
Absolutely. That's the sacrifices.
How much have you spent so far?
Listen, it is quite a lot.
Millions of dollars?
No, not millions, but still, that is quite a lot. Yes.
You don't fear that it could be a wrong investment?
No. That's the sacrifices we must make. Again, we must sacrifice for the common good. You understand? We cannot, look, I may be okay, but how about my grandmother in the villages? How about my siblings in the villages? We must give them the opportunity. The government must create a safety net. Give them a hand up, not a handout. Most recently, I've noticed that they go around sharing rice and sharing sugar and something for that sort. But look, we must tell these people who are receiving them, those are handouts.
You won't do that in this election too?
No, I refuse to do so. No, I refuse to do so. We are going to create the jobs for the people to be able to afford those rice and the sugar forever.
Okay.
Not interim, not for the short-term gain. Ghanaians must be told those are not going to solve their daily problems. Should you get the rice today, then what's going to happen the next week? You're going to go hungry again.
Okay. So that's the independent candidate, Kwame Asiedu Walker. He wants to be president. You heard him yourself. Decide what you will do in this instance. Well, still ahead.